Hello there, internet wanderers, surfers of the interwebs, YouTube voyagers. Welcome to my channel. So I'm going to be getting into some videos that have to do with coping with grief, dealing with losing loved ones and bereavement in general. I'm in no way an expert. I am not qualified, but I have some personal experience. I lost both my parents when I was young. My dad when I was 15 and my mum when I was 20. And it really shaped my whole life, my outlook. And it just completely upended my direction of where I was going. I didn't want to make it my main identity. I never set out to do that. But inflicted trauma, you don't really get to choose, what orientates your interests when these big life events happen to or around you. At least that's what I used to think, that you don't have a choice in it. Now, to some degree, you're always going to react. You're going to be affected by the circumstance you are now in, the new circumstance, like losing someone really close to you. Your life is now changed forever, and there's a part of you that thinks life will never be the same. There'll be a gap. There'll be a missing part, a missing link, a space in your heart that will be forever empty. All of those things are true, but they're half-truths, because any change gives new room for growth. And the problem with death is, a lot of the time it comes into our lives when we're not very, let's say, feeling up for this new growth or change. Kind of goes, I don't know if you ever heard of the idea of like voluntary action versus involuntary action, and how that has a massive effect on our brains. For instance, if someone has a fear of, horses, if someone forces them over to the horse and goes, "Come on, you need to expose yourself," and pushes that person over to the horse, they're going to feel very anxious. They're going to respond really negatively to it. But if they voluntarily go over to that horse of their own action and free will to say, "I want to challenge my fear," this actually has the opposite effect on the brain chemistry. Obviously, far smarter people studied and looked into this than me. I'm just using this as an example of this voluntary, involuntary action. So normally, death comes into our lives involuntarily. Now, some of us have the privilege of seeing it coming, maybe through some disease or illness. But if it's sudden, if it's tragic, out of the ordinary, that throws us into a world we didn't plan to be in, and no doubt you're going to respond completely negatively. So, long-winded way of saying, trauma comes into our lives, we react. We are inevitably going to react, but the healing is accepting it, and through your own free will and choice, choosing to move past it, do something with it, use it as fuel. Something. It could be little things, little personal things in your life, or massive things, societal changes. But always start small, I have used some of my traumas to use as fuel and motivators to change relatively small things, personal things, that have genuinely made a massive difference. The biggest and main one example I can give you, if it's of any interest to anyone out there. So I lost my parents to disease. My mum had MS all my life. She was in a wheelchair as long as I can remember, bedridden, and a lot of her agency got taken away from her. So it was a slow drip of suffering. And it was pretty rough to see. And then my dad, he got cancer, and within 2 years of diagnosis, he was taken out by the big C. So now I can't help but look at the world through a lens of, well, you know, what is making us sick? And there has been a renaissance of natural, holistic health communities popping up all around the world through the internet, power of the internet. And, you know, and faith is coming back to the idea that the body can heal itself if you just give it the right tools, the detoxing tools, the healing modalities, and of course, eliminate the toxins. So this has become a massive interest of mine, and it is fueled by this desire to not have unnecessary suffering. I looked at my situation like I'm an only child. I have no brothers and sisters, and I'm looking at my parents, and they're both, at one stage, they're just both deteriorating right in front of me, and I'm going back and forth looking after them, and it was way too much on me. But that was, look, it was so unnecessary. From my perspective now, I'm like, there's so many things in our environment and the modern world that is affecting our health that don't need to be there, that could easily just be removed, or some little adjustments, we could become radically healthier. So that mindset has fueled me to really stamp order and control over my habits, because I had a lot of bad habits in my reactionary phase to these deaths. And by no means I am no saint, and I'm in no way fully healed, and this is a journey. But in regards to diet, lifestyle, health and stuff like that, I can safely say I'm happy. You know, I'm not forcing anything. So there's just one example of how you know, that pain and trauma and suffering that originated from seeing my parents wither away in front of me. Now that is turned into something good, because it's objectively a good thing when you're healthier. Like, you feel better emotionally, physically. So I'm going to break the channel down into a couple of main topics. Number one, it's processing grief, how it affects your everyday life, and how it affects your own identity of how you see yourself. Number two, the physical body. You've probably heard the body keeps a score. Well, severe trauma, loss of really important people in your life, that will leave an energetic imprint on your body, and you might be left with a certain nagging injury or some type of ailment that keeps popping up, and the doctors don't know how to treat it. Well, could stem from emotional damage. So that's the somatic response, how we can cope with grief through the body physically. And number three, how we can use this to propel, orchestrate and drive whatever it is we want to do in our lives. If there's a dream that we have, a distant goal that seems silly to normal people, but there's something within you, there's a pain within you that drives you forward, like that other people don't have, that will make or break you. So I guess the third section is harnessing that fire, the eternal flame, the flame imperishable, or that life force, and using it to your advantage. Section 4 shall be silly goose knowledge, the esoteric knowledge of being a flippadidoo, and palling around with your flippity-doo mates, running around in long grass, touching earth, breathing fresh air, and, you know, just being a silly goose maximalist. Because it is all too easy to take yourself too seriously. I am one of those people. Oh, the weight of your own baggage can make you seem like a very, you know, you can't have fun in this cruel world type of person. But no, that's just like drinking your own poison. You gotta learn to laugh. You gotta learn to see the joys in life.